Greetings to everyone who's watching this video. My name is Hector Shungwani. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Here I'm here to teach you about Black Power Movement grade 12 essay for history learners. And I believe that each and everyone who is doing history, who is watching this video right now, you will manage to pass your exam with a distinction. Don't take this for granted. This is serious. This will contribute so much in your final examination. What I am going to teach you, I am teaching you something that you will meet it in your final examination. I'm not going to teach you things that they are not going to show up in your examination. Okay, let us start without wasting a lot of time. Okay, here, the first thing that you must know about writing an essay. In history, there are 4 essays. In paper 2, there's 2 essays. In paper 1, there's 2 essays. So now we are doing paper 1 essay, Black Power Movement. So something that you must know about history, they will always give you a statement and then they will ask a question below the statement. So the first thing that you must do, you must understand the statement and be able to take a stand. Take a stand when you are answering that statement. Taking a stand, like in history, they require you to take a stand and support your your statement with relevant evidence. You understand? So a question can come in a different ways. Here I have different question papers as we are looking at civil society protest from 1950s and 1975, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's saying 70s. The Black Power Movement. Okay, the question is installed confidence to the African Americans who began to understand what is meant to be black and self-respect in the United States of America from 1960s and early 1970s. That's the statement. And then the question, it says, do you agree with the statement above? Support your line of argument with relevant evidence, which is, in this one, you have to agree. You are left with no choice. If you will say you disagree on this question, that means your essay, it's totally wrong. You will get 0. So you have to agree on such questions. And then I have another one here. It says, explain to what question paper. So on this question paper, various role players were successful in using the Black Power philosophy to end discrimination against African Americans in the United States of America in 1960s. On this question, there is a less extent, there is a great extent, but the way they asked you a question, it's supposed to be to a greater extent. When you start to write your essay, you must say to a greater extent. And then explain I have another question here, the philosophy of it says power empowered or inspired African Americans to be assertive and do things for themselves, be self-reliant during the 1960s. And then it says use relevant evidence to support your line of argument. I was just briefing you on these questions. Let me start teaching what you need, what you will need in your examination. Okay, on your essay, the first thing that you must know, Black Power Movement was a philosophy rather than the political organization. That's the first point that you must know about your essay. That's the first point that you will get 2 marks. By writing this thing on your final examination, on your test that you will be writing, on your essay that you will be writing at school, you have already gained 2 marks, which is you have 2 marks, you are left with 48 marks that you must get. With no doubt, they have to give you that 2 marks. When you start writing, you will say, Black Power movement was a philosophy rather than the political organization. That's 2 marks. Black Power movement became in power in 1960s and early 1970s. That's the second 2 marks. Now you have 4 marks. You understand? There's no need of your essay to be long or what, but you have to understand the story and write your essay chronologically. When I'm speaking about chronologically, I'm speaking about chronological of events, whereby you cannot write about 1995 after 1995 and then you start writing about 1947, which is there's no chronological of event. You understand? So you must start where the story starts. Years are important in history and understanding the story. You must understand the story. You understand? So first thing that you must do, you must take a stand and support line of argument. You understand? So this essay, it says Black Power movement was a philosophy rather than the political organization. Black Power movement became in power in 1960s and early 1970s. This Black Power movement had 3 political goals. Number 1, separate social institution, defense against racial oppression, establish a self-economy. You understand? This was under this organization. It was a philosophy of those people who were leading the Black Power movement. You understand? So when we are talking about the self-sufficient economy and to establish a separate social institution and defense against racial oppression, you understand? By the mid-60s, many black activists started to lose faith in the civil reforms. The civil reforms was led by Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was non-violent. And the approach or the strategy of Martin Luther King Jr. of being non-violent dominated in the 1950s and early 1960s. That's where it dominated. But when Black Power movement was established, that's where the civil rights movement, like many black activists, started to lose faith in the civil rights movement. All right, sharp. After that, let us go to the second point. Many blacks, particularly in the North, adopted more revolutionary stance. They took up more militant agents. You understand? So I just want us, before we continue with the essay, I just want us to take the question here. Any question, and then we must try to answer it. Like I just want to show you that how do you answer your essay in history? How do you answer your essay in history? And remember, in your introduction, you are expected to get 10 marks. Your introduction have 10 marks. So I believe that each and every one of you watching this video now, when you are going to write your essay, you will get 10 marks in your introduction. And then the 40 marks is for the body and the conclusion. You know? Okay, there is a question. Let me take this one. Okay, it's fine. Let me take this one. The question says, the Black Power movement installed self-confidence to the African Americans who began to understand what is meant to be black and self-respect in the United States of America from 1960s and early 1970s. Do you agree with the statement above? Support your line of argument with relevant evidence. That's the question. So we must take a stance now and support our line of argument. You understand? Those things, they are important. On how you start writing your essay, they are very important. So in this question, we must say, yes, I do agree with the statement that says, and then we go there to the statement and copy that statement the way it is before writing our own points. That's how we start writing the essay. I do agree with the statement that says the Black Power movement installed confidence to the African Americans who began to understand what is meant to be black and self-respect in the United States of America from the 1960s to the 1970s. Because Black Power movement was a philosophy rather than the political organization. Did you understand that point? Let me repeat it for you. A question, it says the Black Power movement installed confidence to the African Americans who began to understand what is meant to be black and self-respect in the United States of America from 1960s and 1970s. Do you agree with the above statement? Support your line of argument with a relevant evidence. Yes, I do agree with the statement that says, and then we go to the statement. You copy the statement the way it is. I do agree with the statement that says the Black Power movement installed confidence to the African Americans who began to understand what is meant to be black and self-respect in the United States of America from 1960s and 1970s. Because Black Power movement was a philosophy rather than the political organization. Black Power movement became in power in 1960s and early 1970s. Black Power movement had three political goals. Number one, defense against racial oppression. Number two, separate social institution. Number three, self-economy. From those 3 points, now we are going to another point now. It's many black activists started to lose faith in the civil rights reforms, in the civil rights movement, which was led by Martin Luther King Jr. Why did they lose faith in the civil rights movement? It's because of many black activists were tired of being non-violent. Like they started to love the approach of Malcolm X, of being radical, of being violent. You understand? So many black activists started to lose faith in the civil rights movement. They started to lose faith in the civil rights movement. Why? You must ask yourself that question. Why? Because the civil rights movement was failing to bring change in the lives of black people, lives of African Americans who were living in the United States. That's the main reason for the black people to start to lose faith in the civil reforms. From there, many blacks, particularly in the North, they adopted more revolutionary stand. After that, they took up more militant agents. That's where in the United States, they started to be the race riots across America. Why? Because black people were trapped in the urban slums, were trapped in ghettos, living under poverty. And the other thing that made the race riots to explode across America, it's because of racism was still in existence. In that way, we are writing our essay, you are getting marks, you are putting points. There is nothing difficult about history. There were riots in many cities, e.g., Los Angeles. In 1965, 34 people died. In 1967, there were rice riots in 150 cities. And there was a tension between blacks and white policemen, and it was very bad. That's where President Johnson appointed Kenner to write a report about the riots. Kenner, in his report, he said the main reason for these riots was the frustration of the young black people who were living in urban slums, considered out of aging apartment building with high rent, which is they were paying high rent. That's what made the riots to explode across America. They are paying high rent while there is a high unemployed rate. And many black people started to seek or do illegal forms of employment, which is they were selling drugs, selling their body, doing illegal businesses because of the poverty that they were living in. So Martin Luther King Jr., the one who led a civil rights movement, when he saw that black people, they are involved in illegally businesses, he felt the pain in heart, and he tried to come back again to take his campaign to the north in Chicago in 1960s, but he failed. He couldn't convince those black people to stop what they were doing. Why? Because he was no longer as influential as he had been before. He was no longer the same. People didn't listen to him. Like, he didn't have power as like before. But instead, the ideas of black power became more important to the black people, which is black people who were supporting a black power movement that was led by Malcolm X. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in April 1968. That was his end. That was the end of the civil rights movement when he was assassinated in April in 1968. And there was a great head spokesperson for the black nationalism was Malcolm X. Malcolm X rejected Martin Luther King Jr.'s approach of being non-violent. Martin Luther King Jr., in other ways, he believed in violence. Malcolm X emphasized that Africans must get their rights by any means necessary. That means he was saying that he would do anything for the black people to get their rights. Perhaps for Malcolm X, emphasizing that Africans must get their rights by any means necessary, this was the most obvious example of Malcolm X influence on the black power movement. That means Malcolm X was violent, believed in violence than talking, because Martin Luther King Jr. believed in talking, negotiate, going through the meetings and so forth and so on. But Malcolm X believed in violence. In order to fight something, you must fight. That's what Malcolm X believed. And his strategy worked because he managed to install the confidence of black people, the self-respect of black people. So good luck, guys. I hope you took notes on what I was saying, and I believe that you will pass, and may God bless you. This essay will be continued on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like so that you can get more videos. You will get the next part of the essay, which is a Black Panther part, but it's the same essay. It will be continuing on the next video. I thank you.